Hey troops, Roxy here and welcome to Roxee Plays Games and welcome to episode 2 of Getting Started with Vatsim. Before getting to the video, I want to do my usual thank you. So thank you for everyone who has liked my previous videos and thank you for everyone who has subscribed to the channel. As always, it is really appreciated. Right, so part 2, just to recap on part 1. We went through logging on to, or not logging on, but registering with Vatsim once obviously you read through to see whether it's for you. We went through your audio, so clicking on update my software, choosing the software that is relevant for your flight sim. So I recommended, well, there is only one for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I recommended Xpilot for X-Plane. Unfortunately, I've never played with these games or these sims, so I can't tell you which one's best out of them. And then we logged into the sim, made sure that we could see planes, and also made sure that we could listen and speak to the air traffic controller. So that was part 1. Part 2, we're going to go through charts, just basic. We're not going to go into too much detail, but I'm just going to go through the basics of charts and what you need to do, where you can get them from. We're going to go through weather and how to read the weather, and then finally planning a flight using, well, I'll show you what I use, but there are various different options for you. So first thing is charts. Now what you can do, let me just actually type this up on here. Navigraph. So if you go to here, you can basically get registered with this, and it is a, well, part of it's a free service, but then there's also a subscription service with it as well. Just have a little look through here, but the subscription service basically gives you access to charts, and you can link it to your FMS data manager within your flight sim, and then you can actually upload your flight plan and your charts into your flight sim. So that's really useful, especially if it's got a little tablet on, like on X-Plane 11 on the Zebo mod. You can actually look at your charts on your tablet, so that's quite cool. So have a little look at that. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but like I say, you can have a free part of it, and then there's also a subscription service. And what that looks like, if I just bring this up for you, Navigraph charts. So you'll have your map, as you can see on here, but what I can do is I can go onto flights. Once I've created a flight, and I'll show you how to do that later on, but once I've created a flight, let's say it's this one here, I can load it up. It will show you all the waypoints on here, your departing and arrival airports. But then what I can do, which is really cool, is if I click on this, or I can expand it down like this, whichever way, I can open the charts list, and then I can look at whatever I need to look at. And I've got a bunch of them already saved here. Actually, let me just get rid of all of these. Clear pinboard. Yes. So let's say this route is from Gatwick to Munich that I did on a Vatsim event. So what I can do is I can look at the airport. So if I go into the taxi tab for London Gatwick, and then I go to airport information, we can see a layout of the airport. We've got the runways, we've got various different points, we can see the taxiways. If we go to parking stands, we can actually see where all of the parking stands. I generally come on Pier 2, normally around one of these stands here, just because it's nice and easy to taxi out, because it's always going to be onto Juliet to go down to this end, or if you was going onto this runway, it'll be Juliet and then like Alpha 1, or Mike and then Mike 1. So this is handy for having a look at. I haven't got my flight sim switched on right now because I didn't really need to for this the video today. But what will happen as well is, if you have got this, which obviously I have, you can click on this little tab here, and this is what's called enable moving map, and it will put a little pink arrow where your plane is, so you can actually physically see where your plane is on the map. So that's obviously quite a cool little feature to have on there. That will help you out seeing where you are. So when you load in, you can actually physically see where your plane is on the map. So that is two of the main ones that I will use for the departing and the arrival airport. Obviously for departing, I can see what my taxi routes are going to be. I can double check what stand I'm on, because there will be, depending on what flight sim you're on, the stand number might be different from what it is on here. So you could, like, on your flight sim it might say gate 1, but on here it might be stand 22. So just kind of look at the two and see which one's correct, because obviously this is what the air traffic controller is going to see. They're not going to see what it is on your particular flight sim. For the arrival, this is going to be important, because once you land and you taxi, ground is going to tell you where to park, so you'll need to know where you're going to go. So if they said stand 564, 564, and you're kind of coming along taxiway Juliet, they may say taxi Juliet Quebec Quebec Charlie to 564. So you can look at this and you can go, right, there's Juliet, there's Quebec, and there's stand 564. So that's the way I'm going to be going. So very, very useful. Next thing that we're going to have is our SID. So the SID is your departure direction. Your star, which we'll have a look at in a second, is your arrival. Now you look at this and you might go, oh my god, I don't know any of this. When we come onto the flight planning using SimBrief, it's going to give you all of this information anyway. However, it's handy to have a little bit of an idea of where they go. Best thing to do if you're using Navigraph charts is click on this little icon here, show overview, and it will give you an overview of what direction these SIDs go in. So depending on what you're actually doing, you can have a little look at this and go, okay, I've got a little bit of an idea. This is obviously set up for the particular runway that I'm on, but if it's a different runway, if I was to change this to 26 left and close this down, then it'll give us slightly different SIDs for that particular runway. But again, what you can do is you can have a look and click on all of these to see what direction they're all going in. Obviously, it will tell you up here, not obviously, but it will tell you up here what runway it's for. So you can just double check. So this is obviously for runway 08 right. This is for runway 26 left. So just double check, make sure that it's going in the rough direction of where you are. Obviously, you wouldn't use this departure here, the Bogner 1M or 1 Victor departure, if you was going up to Edinburgh. It wouldn't make sense. There will be a departure going off in that direction that would be more useful to use. So that is your SID. When you're coming into the opposite end, you're then going to have your star. So if we'll just use this because that's where we are. If we look at our star, we can do an overview, and you can see all of the different directions. So depending on where you're coming in, so if we was coming in from Munich, then we would want to come in on one of these arrivals here. We wouldn't obviously come in on an arrival over there or a star over here. So it just gives you a little bit of an overview of kind of the rough route they're going to do. And like I said, when we come to show you the flight plan, it will give you this anyway, but it's handy to know what they're doing just in case ATC gives you a different departure or arrival. So that's the start. Then you've got your approach, and the approach will be for the runway. And if we was to look at a cat 1, 2 or 3 for runway 26 left, it gives you the direction, it gives you your heading, gives you your frequency that you need to tune in. for the if you're going to do an ILS landing. You got your angle of attack. You got all of your kind of distances and whatnot. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but the main things that you will want to know is the course that you're going to be heading in on, the frequency that you need to tune in for the ILS, and what altitude you need to be at certain points. So you need to be at 2,000 feet when you're at D5.5, 1,520 feet when you're at D4.0. So it just gives you these here. So if you are going to be manually flying in, at least you've got a little bit of an idea to make sure you're on the correct glide slope. And then obviously when you get to your arrival airport, you'll then go into the taxi and look at your airport information and the stands. So that is your chart. Now, like I said, Navigraph is a paid subscription. Not everyone is going to have that. So let me just close you down, because there is always a free option. And we have this thing called Chartfox. Now, Chartfox does require you to be registered with Vatsim, but obviously if you're going to be doing a Vatsim flight, you're going to be registered with Vatsim. So you just log in with your Vatsim username and password, and then what you can do is you can load up. So let's go EGKK, click on load, and it'll give you the charts. So it's very similar. You got your taxi charts, so you get aerodrome, slightly different layout and colours and all that sort of stuff, but it's pretty much going to give you the same information. It may not have every single chart that you had in the Navigraph charts, but it's going to give you all of the relevant ones that you need to know. Your parking stands, you can see the taxiways, you got all of your different SIDs. One thing I do like about Chartfox compared to Navigraph is it does give you the SIDs for that particular runway. So you can see these are all the SIDs for 26 left. You've got all the SIDs for 26, all the SIDs for 8 right and 8. So if you're going off on a 26, you're going to be using one of these here. So that makes it a little bit easier, and then obviously you can click on that and then get all the various information. You may need to rotate the charts depending on what you're looking on. And what I didn't show you on Navigraph, but this is exactly the same, is you can actually click and put it on like a scratch pad. I did delete the one off there on the Navigraph charts. It was down the bottom. This one, it puts them on the top. So all you do is just click on the plus buttons up here, and it kind of puts them in this chart here. So then what you can do is, if when you're out and about doing your flying, you can just click over to whichever one is relevant for what you're actually doing at that particular time. What I would generally do if I was using Chartfox is I would think, right, I'm going from Gatwick, so I need the aerodrome chart. So I've got the overall aerodrome and the parking, not that one, the parking. So I can see the stand numbers. And then what I would do is I go, right, so I want the stand numbers one first, I want the aerodrome chart second. We then want the SIDs, and let's say we're going out on the Bogner 1X for 26 left. So we would want this one. Nope, not that one. There we go, Bogner 1X chart. Click on this little plus symbol, put that up there, and then we can go to, let's say we're going to Manchester, EGCC. Click on load, and then we do the opposite from there. So we'd want the star first. Let's say, I don't know, let's say we're coming in on this star here. We can click on, let's rotate it around first, have a little look. So that, yeah, let's say we're coming in on this one. Click on the plus symbol, then your approach. Let's say we're coming in, obviously I've not double checked to make sure that this is all the correct charts. I'm just giving you an example. So let's say we're coming in on an instrument approach chart for 2-3 right. We click on the plus symbol, then we can go to our taxi. We've got the aerodrome chart, so we can have a look at that. And then finally the parking stands. We can click on that. So then I've got all of my charts in order. So the first one I'm going to have open is this. Once I know where I am and what stand I'm on, and I've wrote that down on a bit of paper, I can remove it. Then I've got my chart for taxiing. So once I've got my taxi route done and I'm taxiing, let's say we're taxiing down to Juliet 1. Once I've done that, I can remove that. Then I can have my departure chart up. Obviously going in the wrong way for going up to Manchester, but just giving you an example. So it's there. Once I've left my departure, I can remove that. I'm then obviously going to be in mid-flight, and then what I kind of have is this ready for our approach into Manchester. And then again, once I've gone through the star, I can remove that. Then I've got my approach coming in, I can remove that. And then once I've landed and I've come off the runway, let's say I come off at this exit here, Alpha Foxtrot 1, I call up ground and they taxi me Alpha all the way down, and let's say we end up at stand 51, and they say alright, stand 51, so I can then open this chart where stand 51, oh it's here, and we're going to be going via Bravo, Kilo, Papa, Juliet, Golf to stand 51. So that's the way I work when using charts, and Navigraph charts is exactly the same. Let me just bring it up actually. Navigraph charts, just so I can just very quickly show you. So I would do, if we're doing this flight, I would open up charts. We want the parking stands, so I just pin that and it's down the bottom. Airport information, pin that, it's down the bottom. SID, what SID are we actually doing? The ODVIC. So what I like about this one actually is we can look on here and go, ooh, and that's the one that we're going to be using. But there it is anyway, the ODVIC. So this is our chart out. So let's pin that. And what's good about this as well is if you click on, this is what I really like about Navigraph charts, is the moving map will show you obviously on the airport, but when you click on this little icon here, it will actually overlay the chart onto the map. So we can see, right, okay, we're going out of this departure here on the ODVIC departure, and that's the way we're going to be flying. So that's really cool. And then we can do the same for the opposite end. So we're going into Munich. So I can click on this one here, open chart list. So I've got my stands, airport and departure. We can then look at our star. What star are we coming in on? The Rock Hill. So we can look down here and Rock Hill. Which one are we coming in on? Not too sure, so I can click on this. Rock Hill 1 Alpha. 0826. What runway? 08. So we're coming in on this one here. So we've got our route coming in. So basically, you're coming in from up here, coming in down here, and then you're kind of doing a little dog leg around like this. And then you'll come round and in on the runway, so it does like a little S shape. It's quite an interesting approach actually. I quite like this one. I've done it a few times before. So we can pin that one. Then we've got the approach, and we're coming in on 08 left. So 08 left, cat 2. So again, we're going to be coming up from somewhere up here. We're doing a little S shape, and then it comes round and in like this. So we can pin that, and then we can open up our airport chart, There's the airport, and then the taxi chart. We'll pin that one as well, and then parking stands. And if you're not sure kind of whether it's east or west, doesn't matter, just pin both of them. And then all you need to do is when they say taxi to stand 300, you can go, right, where's 300? 100, 900, 800, 700, 200, 300, and then you can find them from there. Or if you go into like a GA stand, you can find that 500. So and they're all down here, they're all pinned here. So then when we begin our flight, we just work our way through stands. It does put it in order of where it comes in the chart, rather than like the Chartfox, it will put it in order of how you've pinned them. But generally, they'll be in the order that you're going to need. And that's it. That is your chart. So like I said, I'm not going to get into too much detail about all of the information on the charts. The main thing is you just need to know kind of things like altitude restrictions, speed restrictions. So when you've got two numbers like this with a line, it's saying that you need to be below 6,000 but above 2,000, below 6,000 above 3,000, 6,000, 5,000, and at 6,000 feet. Maximum speed, obviously self-explanatory. And then on here, 5,000 feet, you got your angles, or your heading, sorry, 2,000, 226 degrees, 136 degrees, 80 degrees. You got your altitude that you need to be at this DME, 5,000 feet, and then you got your runway altitude here. So all of this information, frequencies, it's all on here, and it does look confusing. And even me, I mean, I've done plenty of flights now, and I've read these in and out, upside down and all sorts, and some of it, I still look at it and I go, not quite sure what that is. But don't get panicked by it. Have a look at it, kind of look at it, listen to it. Listen to it. That's not really a thing, is it? When you load in at a airport, just listen to the ground when they're giving taxi instructions, and just see kind of where they're going, so you get used to what rough route the planes are going. And even if you want, park next to a plane, because they're going to go the same way as you, and then let them go, let them listen to what they're saying, and then you're just going to use the same taxi routes that they use, and that's what I did at the very start. So that's charts, guys. And like I say, what I will do is in future episodes is I'll break this down into a little bit more detail, and especially when I come to do the flight in the next episode, which will be Wednesday. That'll be uploaded Wednesday evening. I will kind of break it down a little bit more, show you what I'm looking at, and future episodes as well. I'll kind of go over it and go over it and go over it, and we'll use different airports as well. Right, so that was quite an in-depth look at charts. The next thing we want to do is weather, and this again can be a little bit confusing, and it's not quite as simple as you would think, but hopefully I can make this a little bit easier. So let's use Manchester as an example. So you just type in the airport code EGCC, and it's going to give you these letters and numbers, which looks baffling. If you go onto this link here, metareader.com, this is what I started using initially. This is the meta. This is what the ATIS is going to read out to you, with some extra information like the active runway, the information code, and all that sort of stuff. And we'll have a look at that tomorrow's episode. But a lot of that information that reads out is coming from something like this. So let me break it down, and then I'm actually going to show you a little hack. So EGCC, that's the airport code, Manchester. That's the date and time, so it's the 12th at 21:50 Zulu hours. So Zulu is UTC. So basically UK time, but not summertime, just normal time. So at the moment we're in summertime, so it's an hour ahead. So 21:50 Zulu, UK time is actually 20. It'll be 22:50 Zulu hours, but that's when this was last done. It's actually a little bit later than that now. Automatically generated, so someone hasn't manually typed it in. This is your speed, your wind direction and speed. So you've got the first 3 digits will be the direction, and then the next two numbers will be the speed. It's never going to be more than 100 knots or more than 99 knots, so you don't need to ask would it be 3 digits. It will never be 3 digits, because obviously a plane isn't going to fly if the winds are over 99 knots. It just would never happen. So you've got a direction of 250 degrees and a wind speed of 0.1 knots. These next numbers here, and these will obviously be different, but that basically means that that's your visibility. So if visibility was, say, 200 meters, that would say 200. When it's 4 nines, it basically means it's 10 kilometers or more. So that's what that means. This is your temperature and dew point. So temperature is 0.4 degrees. Dew point is -3 degrees, and you've got a QNH of 1031. QNH is basically the pressure, and it's worked out from sea level, and that's what you would type into your plane. Now, when I first started looking at this, I was like, what do all these letters and numbers mean? I've got no idea. What I like about MetaReader, and I still use it sometimes now, because I'm like, oh, I've not seen that NCD before. What does that mean? Decode meta. Click on that and it breaks it all down. So Manchester Airport, date and time, automatically generated, wind direction, visibility, NCD, no clouds detected. I didn't know that. I've learned something now. Like I said, I've not seen that one before. It may give numbers, which would be the altitude for clouds. Temperature 4 degrees, dew point -3, and the QNH 1031 hectopascals. That stands for. Right, so we've got all of that. What I also like to use, and this is mainly for the wind, to find out what runway is going to be in use, is a thing called Wind Component Calculator, e6bx.com. Bit of a weird website, but there it is there. And all you simply do is, well, there's a few things you can do. If you've already got this weather information, so 250 at 1 knots, we can type in wind direction 250. So it's pointing, that's the way the wind is blowing, 1 knot. That's telling us now that the blue direction is the wind. What we would then do is put in the runway. So Manchester it's got 2 runways. Well, it's got 4 runways, but 2 are in the same direction. 23, which is 230 degrees, and 05, which is 50 degrees. So what I can do on here is think, right, which runway direction would it be in? Now I know what the answer is, and you may know what the answer is. As a rough idea, you want to go on a runway that's roughly in the same direction as the wind. The wind's blowing from left to right, but you want the runway that is pointing in that direction. Now I know that may sound confusing. If you think of a compass, you've got 0 degrees at the top, you've got 90 degrees over to the right, you've got 180 degrees down at the bottom, and you've got 270 degrees over to the left. So runway 23 is going to be somewhere down here. So the wind is blowing into 50, but the runway direction that you want to be taking off in is 230. So if I was writing runway 23, we can see now it kind of orientates the direction of the wind. So the wind is blowing into you. Now it's only 1 knot. It's neither here nor there. And as you can see here, the wind is slightly off to the left, but the headwind, that's what's actually going to be blowing into the plane, is a little under 1 knot, 0.94 knots. Now that is insignificant for a plane taking off. Anything over 5 knots is when they'll start taking notice. So if it's below 5 knots, the airport may have a preferred runway to use. Manchester as preferred runway is 23 right. If the winds are really low, doesn't matter what direction they're in. If it's below a certain speed and it's dry, the preferred runway would be 23 right. But don't get too confused about that. There's ways of finding out what runway is going to be in use. But the main thing is you can look at this and go, right, what runways are at a particular airport, and you can look at Simmerway. We can go down to Gatwick, and we can see what runway directions are going in. If you don't know what the runway actually is, because obviously Simmerway doesn't actually show you the numbers, you can load up your Sim Toolkit Pro, which we'll have a look at in a second, and you can actually see those runway numbers on. You can get your weather information, and then you can have a look at this to get your find out. Obviously, if I was to put in, let's say the winds was, I don't know, 10 knots, that's going to give us a headwind of 9. If we were going to use runway 5, we're going to have a tailwind of 9.4 knots. That is not good. We don't want tailwinds, we want headwinds for taking off. Now what you can do on here is you type in EGCC, click on go, and it's going to give you a METAR here. And you can do the same thing on this. You can type in runway 5, it's telling you got a tailwind of 9 knots. Sorry, 9 knots, 0.9 knots, or runway 23, we've got a headwind of 0.9 knots. So that's going to tell me now, well, that's going to be the preferred runway, and if the winds were stronger, then obviously it's going to be more preferred. So that's that. So we've got our charts we can have a look at. We've got our weather information. This is going to be very, very useful. But again, you can get this information from the ATIS when you load in your sim, and we'll look at that tomorrow. And we'll compare it to this. And this does pretty much the same, but I like to look at this. So what I'll do is have a look at this, and if I'm not quite sure, if I'm thinking, well, I'm not quite sure if that's going to be a headwind or a tailwind, then I can just type those numbers into here and then type in the runway that the airport has. Right, and the final thing is flight planning. There's lots of different softwares and tools out there, and I can be here for hours explaining all of them. So I'm just going to show you the one that I use, and I'll load that up right now. It's called Sim Toolkit Pro. It links with SimBrief, so you need to have a SimBrief account. SimBrief is free. It is a flight planning tool, but what this does is it gives you more stuff, basically. There's nothing wrong with SimBrief at all. You don't need this. This just makes things a lot easier. You've got lots of tools down the left hand side here. I have done a tutorial on Sim Toolkit Pro when not so much when it first came out. It'd been out for a little while, but when I first started using it, it has been upgraded and changed over time, and it is 100 times better now with all of the things you can do. It is reasonably self-explanatory for any of you that are streamers and YouTubers. You've got little tools here to have the little bars at the top giving you all the information that we'll get to see tomorrow. Flight tools is quite a good thing here. because it's also got its inbuilt wind calculator. So you could type in here airport code EGCC. It tells you the runways on here. So let's say we're going to be going off at 2 feet right, and it's telling me it's got the winds. It's already here. It's saying 1 knot. We know it's 0.94, so it's just rounded it up to 1 knot. But it's a headwind. Perfect. Let's try EGPH. And we've got 2 runways. We've got 26, so I can hover over it. It's showing me that's going to be a headwind. Oh no, it hasn't changed actually. So we've got a tailwind on 06, a headwind on 24. So this tool is actually better than the other tools. And again, I like to use this. And we'll show you that tomorrow. There's lots of other things that this has. I'm not going to go into everything on Sim Toolkit Pro, because again, I can be here for hours. I just wanted to show you this tool here. It gives you, just type in airport code. Let's have a look at Gatwick, EGKK. We can have a look at the runways. So we got 08. That's kind of a crosswind, but more behind. And 26, again crosswind, but more towards the nose, and that's the kind of what we would want. So we can have a look at that and go, well, what's the wind speed? It's only 1 knot. So if it was stronger, we would definitely be taking off in that direction. But because it's less than 5 knots, the airport may have a preferred runway to use because it's below 5 knots. So you would just load into Sim, listen to ATIS, and find out what the preferred runway is. So that's that. And like I said, it does give you your METAR here. So you got the code, the date and time, wind speed and direction, your cloud visibility. So that's basically saying that cloud level and visibility is okay. You got your temperature and dew point and QNH. But flight planning, that's what we're interested in for this. So we go to flight planning. And like I say, this links to SimBrief. So you need to have your SimBrief linked to all of this. And once it is, all you do is actually go back a step. Fleet. What you will want to do is add in the planes that you fly. So just start off with your most popular planes that you fly, and then if you're going to be flying a new plane, you can just come in and add it. It's really simple. Click on the plus symbol, put in your aircraft code or your registration for your plane, and then it will ask you for some more information. So yeah, really simple. And then you've got your list here of all your planes that you fly. And then what you would do is create a new plan. So let's go from Gatwick, EGKK, to Manchester, EGCC, Manchester, and then you can search for your plane here, or if you haven't put it in your fleet, you can add aircraft here. But I've got a 320 in here. I've got 2. When I type in 320, you've got the A320 and the B732, the Boeing. It'll pre-populate some information, but you can change all of that. You can put in your call sign if you are going to be flying with a virtual airline. So my call sign is 9049. FL is for the Skyways, so it's UKV. Departure date and time, obviously you can put that in there. Don't worry too much about this, but you can put it in there. Whether you want kilos or pounds for your flight sim, and all of this you can pretty much leave blank or just leave it as it is if you want. However, let's say you know, because you've loaded it into the airport and looked at ATIS because you wasn't sure about the weather, that I know Gatwick is going to have, let's say, a 26 left departure, and let's say Manchester is a 05, a 23 right arrival. We can put them in to pre-populate that those bits. Do you want a SID, yes or no? If you've got a particular route, let's say you're flying with Fly UK, you're doing an event or a tour or something like that, and it's giving you a specific route that you need to follow, you can put that in here, copy and paste it in. But then all you do is click on generate plan. You'll do some thinking, and ta-da! So there we go. What you can have as well with SimBrief is what's called SimBrief Downloader, and you just link this to your flight sim wherever you have your PDF and flight plans go to. So it's really simple. It links in very easy with Microsoft Flight Simulator. Explain 11, from what I remember, you had to do some little detail changes, but again, SimBrief, there are hundreds of tutorials, and I have done a tutorial myself on SimBrief, so have a look at that. But all I do is, once that pops up, click on it, and that will automatically download the flight plan, the PDF, all the information that is on SimBrief, which obviously is within SimBrief, SimToolkit Pro, into your flight sim folder. So that's all available in there. We can see our route. It's up here. We've got our flight number, our call sign, the plane, which I just clicked off. You choose what network you're going to be flying on. So if we're going to do Vatsim, obviously you do that. We can see an overview of our flight here. Again, you've got your route down here. If you need to change anything, you can change it to whatever, and it does give you little pink lines showing you the rough route of what that's going on. So let's say we want to change our SID to do that. Bosh, done. We want to change our arrival. You can change them. Obviously, you need to make sure it's going to be a suitable one for that airport. That would really not be the best one to do. But there you go. You can change all of these in here, but it will give you what it thinks is the best, most suitable route for that flight path. But sometimes it may say no SID, or it may say no star. If that's the case and you know there is one, then you can go in and put it, and that's where those charts come in handy, because you can just have a quick look to make sure that that's all fine. But yeah, once you've got all of that sorted out, you can click on Fly Now, and then, matter of fact, let's do that. Click on Fly Now. It'll give you your OFP, so you've got your all the information that you need to put in your plane. So you've got your cost index, you've got your altitude, obviously your departing airport, your call sign information here, you've got your block fuel, obviously this is in pounds. What else would you probably want from here? Alternate airport, so it's given us Heathrow. Scroll down a little bit further, you have got top of climb, so TOC, top of climb. You've got your wind at top of climb and your temperature at top of climb. So if you need to input that into your flight computer, you can input that information there. So yeah, that's really handy. You've got information on the airport, so you got your elevation, the runway length, transition level, heading, and then for your arrival you'll have the frequency for the ILS if it's got one, and the course heading. You've got a taxi route here, so you can have a look at your taxis. That's really handy. You've got your radio frequencies, and also you've got your weather, your METAR, and your TAF. TAF is just like a bit more of a detailed version of a METAR, but it gives you pretty much the same information. And you've got a flight summary, so you can have a quick look at this. You've got your flight summary here, you've got various different things on here that you can look at. You can look at your charts. You can look at frequencies, give you all the frequencies there. If you want the weather details for the different elements, and then your departure details there. And then again, you can open up your charts for your arrival. So this is all of the charts that you would get in your Chartfox, but it's within SimToolkit Pro. So this is really, really cool. So yeah, the flight summary is like a clean version of the live map. And if you click on live map, you have got your flight plan on a map, but also showing you other information, and that's all going to be dependent on what you click up on here. And I'm not going to go into too much details because it's obviously just about the flight plan, but SimToolkit Pro, again, I've done tutorials on this, and there's hundreds of tutorials out there explaining what everything does. But I essentially have Vatsim, all of these checked. I've got everything else unchecked. I've changed some colors just to suit my personal viewing style, and that's it. What I do like about SimToolkit Pro, however, is when we zoom in to the map, we can see the runways. So you got runway the taxiway, sorry, Juliet, Zulu, November, Papa, but you can also see all of the stand numbers as well. So you can see there's a plane here on stand 11. We've got any more planes around? Yeah, we've got a plane up here on stand 64 left, or 64 Lima, sorry. And yeah, and we've got a couple of planes here as well. So that's what I like about SimToolkit Pro, a little bit more detail. And obviously it follows your plane as well. When you load in, it'll have an icon of your plane, so you can see where you are flying around. So that is the flight planning. So really, that is pretty much it for today's episode. A longer one than yesterday's one. I know it's more information, more kind of theory, but tomorrow's episode we will obviously do a flight, and we're going to put all of this information into one video. So just as a recap for today's video, we've gone through charts, whether you're going to use the free version of Chartfox or whether you are going to register with Navigraph, get a Navigraph account, subscribe to them so that you can then use the Navigraph charts, which I would recommend, but again, it's not essential. It's just more of a nicety than anything else. But you've got Chartfox, and obviously you've also got the charts within SimToolkit Pro, which comes from here. Wind, obviously looking at our wind components, the METAR, understanding what this means, metarreader.com. If you click on the decode METAR, I couldn't think what it's called then, it will give you broken down information here of what all of those different elements mean. And excuse me, and then finally your flight planning, and again there's loads of different tools out there. Another one actually I'll just very quickly show you before we go, VOL Volanta. This is a fairly new flight planning software. I was beta testing this when it first came out, and it's very similar to SimToolkit Pro, a little bit cleaner, a little bit cleaner, less information on here, but it does pretty much the same thing. You can plan a flight, you can do it manually, or you can upload it from SimBrief if you've obviously got a flight in there, so you can just import it, and then we can see that flight that we've done from Gatwick up to Manchester. You can see your controllers that are online. You can pre-file it to Vatsim, which we'll have a look at in tomorrow's flight. And again, you can zoom down, and let me just hide that a little bit. You can zoom down and have a look at that The only thing that I don't like is what it's doing right now, so we can turn it off. Oh no, not that one, this one here. And that'll just get rid of it. It's just because we had an approach on, and when you hover over it, it kind of keeps changing like this, and it's trying to tell you who it is and what frequency they're on. If you click on the click, because it says click to view controller, but I don't want to. But yeah, again, zoom in, it'll give you the stand numbers. You can see your taxiways and stuff like that. So this is really nice. This seems to be less laggy than Sim Toolkit Pro, and I kind of flick between the two. Just depends on what mood I'm in, really. Sometimes I'll have both of them running, but both of them will log your flights, and you can see what flights you've done here. So these are all the flights I've done on Volanta, and then I've done hundreds on Sim Toolkit Pro. But yeah, flight planning, whichever tool it is that you're going to use, they're all good. They've all got their positives. Some of them will have some negatives. Sim Toolkit Pro's pretty much got everything that you could possibly want, with all the charts and the tools and whatnot within. Especially these here are just priceless with your wind calculator. It's even got checklists for certain planes, and you can import more if you want. You can get airport information, e.g. CC, Manchester, and you get all the information that you want for that. So yeah, very, very good Sim Toolkit Pro. And that's pretty much it. I think I covered everything I wanted in today. Yeah, charts, wind, flight planning. So yeah, quite a long video, lots of information, but hopefully it's been of use. And what we're going to do is in tomorrow's video is we'll put everything together and we're going to do a flight. Not sure where we're going to go yet. I will obviously look at SimAware, find out what controllers we've got online. There's no point in me doing a flight if there's no one online for that particular area. I want at least a ground or tower online. An approach will be nice, but the approach will be very busy because they're not only controlling clearance delivery, taxiing, taking off, but everyone that's kind of coming in and going out. So they're busy, very busy people. If there's no one on below them, but Gatwick has got a tower online, so tower will have quite a lot of work to do. So yeah, I'm going to cut the end of an episode, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, and I shall see you tomorrow. Goodbye.